Alright, we're ready for page 2 of 10.2, and on this page we'll do a little bit more with rational exponents. What we're asked to do in number 9 is to simplify this radical by rewriting it with a rational exponent, and we're going to write the answer in radical form if necessary, and we're going to assume variables represent positive real numbers. So this is a very basic problem, so we want to write this with rational exponents. The 8th root is the same as the 1/8 power. So this is a squared on the inside, but the 8th root is the same as the 1/8 power. And as we simplify this, if we multiply, so we would take a power to a power, we multiply the exponents. 2 times 1/8 is 1/4. So we could write this as a to the 1/4 power. And it says to write the answer in radical form if necessary. We could write this now as the 4th root of a. And so the 4th root of a would be a simplified answer. So it's a good exercise in taking an expression that has radicals, changing it so it has rational exponents, and then changing it back so that it has a radical again. The last 3 questions in this section here involve taking some expressions that have a lot of rational exponents and somehow simplifying them. Basically, it involves using properties of powers. Okay? So we have to remember our properties of powers. When we multiply powers, what do we do to the exponents? I'll give you a second to think. Or you could pause it and think if you need to think longer. But when you multiply powers with the same base, y, that have exponents, we add the exponents. So we would take 7/3 plus negative 4/3. So what does that give us? What's 7/3? And if you don't know, use your calculator, right? But you shouldn't have to on this one. Adding 2 fractions with the same denominator should be easy. 7/3 plus negative 4/3 would be 3/3, right? And if you want to verify that, you could do 7/3 plus a negative 4/3. And it should tell us that's 1. Yeah, 3/3, right, which is 1. So this is just y to the first, or y. So that simplifies it quite a bit. Now here we got a lot going on, right? The top is multiplication, so let's do that. We know how to do that. We just did that, right? If you multiply powers, you add the exponents. 2/3 plus negative 1/3 would be a 1/3. So on the top we get a to the 1/3. On the bottom we're taking a power to a power, which means we multiply the exponents. Negative 1/6 times 3 would be negative 3/6, or negative 1/2. So this becomes a to the negative 1/2. And if you're not good with fraction operations, again, you could always use your calculator. Take negative 1/6 times 3. It's going to tell you it's negative 1/2. Now we can simplify this further. When we divide exponents, we're going to subtract. Or when we divide powers, we're going to subtract the exponents. So we have 1/3 minus a negative 1/2. Maybe I'll write that down. A to the 1/3 minus a negative 1/2. So let's see, we could do this. This is a little harder because we don't have common denominators. But this is the same as 1/3 plus 1/2. I might use my calculator and see what that is. Let's see where you can see a little better. So 1/3. If you do minus a negative 1/2, it's the same as plus 1/2. We get 5/6. So this becomes a to the 5/6. Let's look at this last one. There's a lot of stuff going on here. But let's see. We can distribute the 2/3, right? We have a product to a power. You have a product to a power. You can apply that power to both parts. And so I'm going to write this down. This would become x to the negative 1/3 to the 2/3 times y squared to the 2/3. On the bottom, we could do the same thing, right? We have a product to a power. We could distribute that power to both parts. So this becomes x squared to the 2/5 times y to the negative 5th to the 2/5. All right, then we'll do some simplifying, right? If we multiply here now, 2/3 times negative 3, What would that be? That would be negative 2, right? So we get an x to the negative 2. 2 to the 2/3. Let's see, y squared to the 2/3. You multiply those, you get y to the 4/3. On the bottom, x squared to the 2/5. That would be x to the 4/5. We're multiplying. Take a power to a power, we multiply the exponents. Same thing here. Negative 5, y to the negative 5th to the 2/5. We multiply those exponents. We would get y to the negative 2nd. 5's basically cancel, right? Again, if you're not good with these operations, use your calculator. Take negative 5 times 2/5 on a calculator, see what it tells you. It should tell you negative 2. Alright, so we can simplify from here also. Remember, we have to have the same base to combine these. So this would be x to the negative 2nd divided by x to the 4/5. So here we can subtract, right? So negative 2 minus 4/5. And we don't know what that is. Let's do it on your calculator. What's negative 2 minus 4/5? That's negative, okay, that's negative 2 and 4/5, but I don't like the mixed number, and I can always change that. I do second ABC and hit equals. That's negative 14/5, right? So we would have x to the negative 14/5. Here we have 4/3 minus a negative 2. So let's do that. See what that is. 4/3. So we can see it better. So 4/3 minus a negative 2. Let's see what that is. That's 3 1/3. I don't like the mixed number, so I'm going to hit second ABC and equals. That's 10/3. So we have y to the 10/3. Alright, so if you look at this, it looks all good and fine and well, but if you remember, briefly I mentioned we don't really like to have negative exponents. In fact, it even says that in the directions. Write all answers with positive exponents. And that's pretty easy to do. If you have a negative exponent, you just move it to the other location. So if it's negative exponent in the numerator, right now this is all over 1, right? We could move it to the bottom with a positive exponent. If we had a negative exponent in the denominator, we can move it to the top with a positive exponent. So this will become y to the 10/3 over x to the 14/5. And that's our answer. Y to the 10/3 over x to the 14/5. Alright, I know that one is kind of complicated. You'll see a few like that in your homework. Don't forget to use the question help if you need to. Contact me if you need to. And that's it for section 10-2.